Okay, so after a little bit of time trying to figure out the best way to do this, this is the best I can come up with. I know it's a little bit awkward, it's looking over my shoulder, but this way you'll be able to basically see the screen, basically see my note sheet. I'm going to have a timer going to try and make this as genuine as possible. Now, I did say when we were doing this, when I was talking about it on Zoom, I said that we'd have a little bit of an issue with getting the timing exactly right on this because I'm going to be doing everything out loud and taking a lot longer to make my thoughts clear than they would be as they actually go through my head. So my time might be a little bit off. My recommendation for all of you is you have a setup kind of like this. I'm going to have my Chromebook in front of me. I'm going to have a timer. When you take the exam, they'll have their own timer going, but it can't hurt to have another one just so that you're seeing it, it's in your eye line. Now I'm going to have my notes. Now the thing that I like best is I'm going to have some scratch paper. I have scratch paper here. I have my rhetorical analysis checklist. This is in Google Classroom. There's a link to it so you can print it. I am still looking at, I haven't had a lot of feedback from students about printing a bunch of them and having them available at the school on Tuesday morning so you could come and get them from me because I'm happy to print it for you. That's not a problem. Again, this is not one that I originally made. You'll see there's actually a credit at the bottom for who originally made it, another teacher. I adjusted it a little bit so that the language would suit us and our expectations a little bit better, but this should work pretty well. I've got my planner here. I've got my rhetorical analysis checklist. This is basically space and then space cat, the cat part really being here of how I'm going to use my evidence. So we're going to be using the one that I had linked up in the Google Classroom assignment, the Madeleine Albright prompt from 2018. I have not read it yet, so this is going to be very genuine. I did not practice, so we'll see how I do with this and how we come up with it. Now again, the timing I'm suggesting here is reading and planning together in a 15-minute chunk, and then 30 minutes of writing. I figure the better my plan is, the better I'm going to be able to write. Okay, let's go ahead and start. I'm going to get my timer going here. Oh, it keeps going to 18 for some reason. Here we go. I need 15 minutes. Start. Okay, I've got it here. This top here is really important. It's going to give me my context. My context I can probably figure out from all this, but I really need to do it here. In 1997, then United States Secretary of State Madeleine Albright gave the commencement speech to the graduating class of Mount Holyoke College, a women's college in Massachusetts. Okay, read the following excerpt from her speech carefully. We'll develop an essay in which you analyze the choices Albright makes to convey her message to her audience. Okay, I'm going to start with a couple things right here. This is a speech, so I have that ready to go. Her purpose, I probably don't know her purpose yet. I can guess on some of it. I'm guessing there will be some degree of informing understanding, convincing and advocating, maybe exploring a bit of an idea, encouraging. Graduation speeches tend to, that's all pretty good. Main subject, I don't know it yet. Our speaker is a woman, which is only important here so I can use the right pronouns. She is still alive. For me, she's at least a little bit familiar to me. She may not be familiar to you. That's okay. Relatively famous, I'd say is true. Secretary of State. It's in the 90s. She's probably very smart and determined to have that job at that time. She happened to have been the first ever female Secretary of State, so that's pretty big. Let's see, year. It's 1997, probably in spring because it's a graduation. That's just 90s. Let's see, so wasn't that long ago. What do I know about that history? Pretty contemporary still. All the same issues we're facing now, we pretty much were facing then. We'd had the first Iraq War, not the second Iraq War. Okay, not bad. So I've got all that stuff. I am thinking here, I want to make a quick note about the audience, because the thing that's interesting to me here is she's at an all-women's college. And I'm guessing that's going to influence some of this. One, because how could it not influence her as a good writer? Two, they mentioned it here, so I'm guessing it matters. All right. As individuals, each of us must choose whether to live our lives narrowly, selfishly, and complacently, or to act with courage and faith. I'm already interested in this line here, narrowly, selfishly, complacently, that use of those adverbs all in a list. That's pretty cool. There's an imperative choice. The hook is a choice to do good. Oh, and I've already messed up on my notes. This is supposed to be about my hook, and I'm writing about her hook. That's okay. I'll come back to it. I'm not going to kick myself for it. As a nation, America must choose whether to turn inward and betray the lessons of history or to seize the opportunity before us to shape history. Today, under leadership of President Clinton, America is making the right choice. Okay, so she's going to say something about America is choosing to do good. The Berlin Wall is now a memory. We could be satisfied with that. Instead, we are enlarging and adapting NATO and striving to create a future for Europe in which every democracy, including Russia, is our partner. Every partner is a builder of peace. Largely because of U.S. leadership, nuclear weapons no longer target our homes. So we're talking about the achievements of the United States, how we've done great things, but probably she's saying we need to go even further because we're not going to choose complacency. We're going to go even further. Let's see. The fighting in Bosnia has stopped. That was a war that was going on at the time, the Serbian War. We could turn our backs now and risk renewed war. Instead, we are renewing our commitment, insisting that the parties meet theirs to implement the Dayton Accords. Let's see, there's number 2 there. That would seem to indicate there's a note here for me to understand that. It's a peace agreement ending the war. Okay. This is a pretty long prompt. Let's see, and we're back in the War Crimes Tribunal. So these are steps we're taking for the war. We have built a growing world economy. I'm very interested in that use of we. I think that's really interesting. Let's see, in available capital, I've done very well. We could stop there. Instead, we are pursuing a broader prosperity in which those entrapped by poverty and discrimination are empowered to share, in which every democracy on every continent will be included. So there's a big kind of global goal in all this. In our lifetimes, we've seen enormous advances in the status of women. I had a feeling that was going to come back because of her audience. We could now lower our voices and, as some suggest, sit sedately down. Instead, women everywhere, whether bumping against a glass ceiling or rising from a dirt floor. Oh, I'm definitely going to use that phrase. I'm just going to make a note here. Line 40 to 41. That's awesome. I also, you know what, now I'm thinking about it, I want to go back and note line 30 and this use of we, because that's really interesting. Image, reinvent, cliche. All right, so let's see, I was at line 40. Are standing up, spreading the word that we are ready to claim our rightful place as full citizens and full participants in every society on earth. Mount Holyoke is the home, to borrow Wendy Wasserstein's phrase, of uncommon women. We know that there are uncommon women in all corners of the globe. Line 45, I like that there's an allusion there, a literary allusion. I don't know who Wendy Wasserstein is. I'm guessing she's important, though. But we know that there are uncommon women in all corners of the globe, right? So this is expanding the idea of we. Expand in line, that'd be 48. Okay. In recent years, I've met in Sarajevo with women weighted down by personal grief, reaching out across ethnic lines and checking our timer. We're doing okay. We're 5.5 minutes in. In Burundi, I've seen women taking the lead in efforts to avoid the fate of neighboring Rwanda, where violence left 3/4 of the population female and 1/2 of the women widows. Oh my lord. In Guatemala, I've talked to women striving to ensure that their new so there's an idea here of kind of expanding the scope of this. Lines 50 through, I'm guessing this is going to go for a while. 50 through about 64. Global scope. And I think, you know what, that idea of we expanding is going to be really important. We've done good things in the United States. We still need to do more. That global scope, though, is really important. We need to look at this in a planet way. In Guatemala, I've talked to women striving to ensure that their new peace indoors is coming by justice and an end to discrimination and abuse. And in Burma, I've met with a remarkable woman named Aung San Suu Kyi, who risks her life every day to keep alive the hope for democracy in her country. I apologize for mispronouncing anything that I'm sure I did. These women have in common a determination to chart their own path, and by so doing to alter for the better the course of their country or community. Each had suffered blows, but each has proceeded with courage. Each has persevered. So there's something about courage, perseverance. I'm guessing that's going to be set up as like an example for us. That's going to be line 68. Okay, as you go along your own road in life, you will, if you aim high enough, also meet resistance, whereas Robert Kennedy once said. It's another illusion. That's interesting. 71. So there's a lot of that thing, and Robert Kennedy is a very inspirational figure, so that makes a certain amount of sense. Let's see, as you aim, as Robert Kennedy once said, if there's nobody in your way, it's because you're not going anywhere. It's a great quote. But no matter how tough the opposition may seem, have courage still and persevere. The idea of perseverance coming back from 68 to 70. There's no doubt if you aim high enough that you will be confronted by those who say that your efforts to change the world or improve the lot of those around you do not mean much in the grand scheme of things. But no matter how impotent you may sometimes feel, have courage still and persevere. Persevere again in line 80. So there's that repetition, and then repetition. The other thing I was just thinking about there is this idea of journey words. That she's using diction that's all about where are you going. So there's the candy thing in 71. There's 69 has that. 75 has that with aim high enough. There's a lot about physical journey. Proceeded with courage in 67. A lot of things there. Okay, there's It is certain if you aim high enough that you will find... Do we have high enough earlier as well? Am I crazy? Yeah, so 70 and 81. That's pretty convenient. 70 and 81 aim. Okay, so I like the repetition there. So I'm looking at repetition. I'm looking at diction. I'm looking at imagery. And I'm looking at illusions. I have a lot of options already on what I'm going to write about. But it is certain that if you aim high enough, you will find your strongest beliefs ridiculed and challenged. Where are we on time? So I have 5 more minutes to plan, and I'm almost done with this. Dismissed by those claiming to be more practical or realistic than you. But no matter how weary you may become in persuading others to see the value in what you value, have courage still and persevere. Persevere again in line 87. Let's see. Inevitably, if you aim high enough, another one of aim high enough, of that perseverance. So that is on 85, 86, 87, 88. Here we go. You will be buffeted by the demands of family, friends, and employment that will conspire to distract you from your course. That is also on, what was that, 70? It was the Robert Kennedy thing. Yeah, 72. So 72, and I could have done this in a more organized way, but I didn't want to change sheets around very much, but it's all going to work out. 72 and 90, 89 to 90 are about blockades in path. Okay. Inevitably, if you aim high enough, blah, 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 blah. But no matter how difficult it may be, still persevere. Persevere in 94. So it has been said that all work is worth anything that is worth anything is done in faith. This idea of belief. Okay. This morning in these beautiful surroundings at this celebration of warm memory and high expectation, I summon you in the name of this historic college and of all who have passed through its halls to embrace the faith that your courage and your perseverance, again, 101, will make a difference, and that every life enriched by your giving, every friend touched by your affection, every soul inspired by your passion, and every barrier to justice brought down by your determination will ennoble your own life and inspire others, serve your country, and explode outward the boundaries of what is achievable on this earth. Okay, I have lots of stuff to work with, and I have a few minutes to plan, and this is not a hard line. I'm aiming for 15 minutes, and again, reading out loud and explaining my notes is taking up some of my time, but we're doing pretty good. Now, my big idea, I'm going to use just a general setup. I'm going to talk about, it's Madeleine Albright, she's Secretary of State. The tone, I'm going to say, is trying to be, I have my tone sheet here, that's convenient. Main subject, I'm going to say, is going to be about a few things. I'm going to say it's mostly civil rights and social justice. A little bit about gender and womanhood, although not a lot. I think it's really open to pretty much everyone. Politics and government are right there. Passionate and ardent, I'd say, is about right. A little bit of philosophy, not much. Let's see, pleading. I don't know about pleading. Calm, definitely calm. Defiant, maybe. I don't like how they have it with negative. I'd only do half of that one. It's a little bit defiant of accepting that we don't have to accept the status quo. All right, so what's the entire passage about? It's about persevering for improved social justice. Now, I'm going to use this to plan out this part here. So I'm going to say my device is here. Oh, look at this. This is convenient. She's going to use, I'm going to use references and allusions that she uses. She should use those to build up her credibility. I'm going to say that there's also going to be, let's see, I want imagery because she's definitely using imagery there. Word choices that evoke is a big one I would use here. I have my others. I would really look at having repetition. I would look at having, let's see, we had diction, imagery, allusion. I have my allusions there. I have my imagery here. Repetition and diction is what I'm going to make for that one there. Now I have everything I need for my notes here. Again, I could have done them a little bit more cleanly, but I have my big ideas. Albright uses, right, these allusions. I'm going to have the speakers that she uses, people who inspire us and drive us towards great things. I have my imagery. She has those strong images of continuing on that path. We're all going on this thing. It's metaphorical, right? There's not literally a path. So we could say it's a metaphor achieved through imagery, and we understand what it's talking about. And then I'm going to say, but most significantly, her use of repetition and diction. And I'm going to go and talk about these. I don't need to talk about all the examples. I can say a couple of them and say, and there are many more. These are important because, right? Now, my general thesis statement I'm going to start with, you have another handout on that one that I've made for you that I can even make an adjusted one where it's just like a fill in the blanks. That might be really helpful for you as you write this stuff. But I'm pretty good. So for the first, in the beginning, you could actually make your thesis statements out of this. In the beginning, the speaker established, because this is set up for chronological order, so I actually wouldn't have done these in this way. I'm going to start off with imagery here. Establishes her idea through imagery, her main point, right? This idea of the path that we're going along, breaking through the glass ceiling and people starting in dirt poor areas, I think was the quote. And then let's see, we're going to have, for my second part then, I'm just going to switch these. Later in the passage, she establishes, let's see, her emphasizes the importance of this with the allusions to other people who think the same thing. And then I'm going to go, and then ultimately, I'm going to say like throughout the piece, I'm going to say throughout, she, oh, that's our timer. That was it. I gotta tell you, I think we're pretty close. I have maybe 10 seconds left of my planning with doing everything out loud. The author, I'm going to say, emphasizes through repetition and diction. I've got my whole plan. I've got my line numbers. I don't need to like transfer them all over. I could certainly, but this is definitely enough for me to start writing and have it pretty well organized. I switched my order as I planned. But now I know, okay, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start with imagery for my first point. I'm going to go with allusions. I'm going to finish up with the thing that happens throughout the whole paper, because going chronologically is helpful. I'm going to finish up with repetition and diction. Now, you could say these are kind of 2 points, and I guess they are, but there's no limit at 3. I can do that, but I really feel they're closely related enough I can do them in that way. Now, with this plan, with the way we've done it, I will go back and reread a little bit as I write to make sure I have my context right for my quotes and my evidence. But I've got everything I'm going to talk about, and I didn't talk about the appeals. You guys need to stop using the appeals so much. It's more helpful to look at what are they doing with language and how is that language putting everything together. I realize I'm looking askance at the lens. Hello. Maybe that's better. Maybe that's worse. It's very close up to my face. I like this. I had seen students have success with it, and I had seen teachers talk about having success with it. I had not personally used it yet. So I'm thinking about maybe I'll make some adjustments to it. You're welcome to make adjustments to it. This is not the be-all, end-all. This is a place to start if you don't have a place to start. If you have another system you prefer, use another system. Sort of things here I would maybe tweak a little bit, but by and large, I actually think it's pretty good. I think this system of reading for my evidence and reading for my purpose is best. Because what I didn't say here as explicitly, although we did get there, is this idea of what is the purpose, right? To my way of thinking, the purpose here is that while there is, we've made great progress in the world, particularly the United States, we need to push in the United States and to help all over the world for furthering the cause of justice and equality. We must persevere, and she gives the charge to all the students that they must persevere and work toward these things. That it's an ethical imperative on them. So that would be this. She makes her point through, blah 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 blah. It is working fast, but it's a pace of work that I think you are capable of doing. If your plan is good enough, you'll be able to write it pretty quickly. So if you were pushing yourself to read and plan in whatever, 5, 6, 7 minutes, and then have all that time to write, that time writing is kind of wasted because you're sitting there going, but what am I going to do? And then you're rewriting anyway. I'd say have the plan, have the best plan possible. Let's talk about worst case scenario. Worst case scenario, you have an awesome plan and you don't finish the paper. That's bad, but you're still probably going to get a better score because you have more interesting things you're saying. You have a strong thesis statement that makes sense. You have strong evidence you're presenting and that you're analyzing. Maybe you don't get through all of it because you're running out of time. That sucks, but they can see you were doing it and doing it well. You'll still get more points. If you look at the rubric doesn't say that you need, 5 pieces of evidence explained. It says that you have adequate evidence and all evidence is thoroughly explained and connected to the text. If you do that, I'm going to pull this off here. If you do that, if you have good evidence, you put everything together, you'll be fine. So let's look at it that way. The better my plan, the better my evidence, the better my explanation of the evidence, the better I'm going to do. If it means you miss out on a conclusion, whatever. Who cares? All right? The conclusion, it's not even that the sophistication point depends on the conclusion. That's kind of the closest category for it, but sophistication is really more about how well you explain your points. You could get a perfect score without a conclusion. So don't let that be the thing that stops you. Okay, I'm excited. Do some practice, do some planning, do some writing. If you like, I'll write my essay. I'll time myself for 30 minutes to see how I can do with it, and then I'll post it up. All right, I'll talk to you all soon. Bye.